gentlemen, please give it up for Nick Spanos. I'm sure you know that name. Nick is the Bitcoin pioneer and also co-founder of Zap. Nick, please give Nick a round of applause.
How's it going? How was lunch?
2 hours, please. 2 hours.
So, while they get that ready, back in Dubai, things are going very nicely, I believe. Came a long, long time ago, before the big tall buildings, and also back in, I think, 2015, 2016, Dr. Marwan invited me here, and I showed up, and I went and I explained Bitcoin and blockchain to a bunch of people here in the government. And I think they actually listened, which is a lot different than many other countries I've been to. I don't know how many I've been to, dozens. I'm very happy that Dubai, the Emirates here, allowed it to flourish. Many other places are afraid or whatever they are, but their time will come to accept it. That was my first computer, 1978. I had to order, mail order, and put it together with a soldering iron. That's not my modem, but something like mine. Mine was a lot crazier looking. So, one of the first things I did was sell political data. I'm going to tell you what I did, so either listen to me or not. So, I sold political data. That was one of the first things that I figured I could do. Got involved with politics. Dr. Ron Paul over there. The first form of digital scarcity was domain names. I kind of put 12,000 of those, early 90s. I built out an app called getaroom.com, and No More Hotels was an early Airbnb. And then I built out a livery cab, which was an early Uber before the smartphone. So blockchain, Bitcoin. Right now, I believe we're in the stages of, we're a bunch of like cave people, and the wheel was invented and we're laughing because it rolls. We don't know what's coming next. We don't know that the wheelbarrow's coming, the factory's coming, the clock is coming. So yeah, people wanted faster horses when Henry Ford was around, and it's kind of feeling that way now. But it's moving. Some people got on a train, some didn't. These guys, not only did they get on a train, but they became part of the revolution. Right now, it's a continuation of that revolution, the Industrial Revolution, augmented man's strength. I think right now we have the information calculation, computation, communication, crypto, economic revolution happening. And after you jump on board, you'll lead yourself to your inevitable, incredible future. In the early 90s, we weren't allowed to use encryption on the internet, which slowed things down. But now that we have encryption on the internet, many more fields are being adopted. Blockchain, Bitcoin, encryption, hashing, provability is being adopted on the internet. So that's what's happening now. This was happening a few years ago. It's an old slide. Of course, I say, well, permissionless innovation is pretty much the only innovation that makes any sense or that has ever moved people forward, like the Wright brothers. If they had people heard them building the airplane in their bicycle shop in the middle of the night, they'd think they were crazy, and that's what happened to us. Oh. So centralization, I think, wow, I don't know, that's what I got in there. But, so I believe, COVID-19 showed up And the world was ready to move forward in a way that it never did before. You got Zoom meetings, you got the cryptoeconomics of blockchain happening faster. And I think Moses led his people away from centralization, and the plagues back then, the 13 plagues, helped that happen. And I think now, you know, with COVID, it helped everyone realize that having something that's more scarce is more important. That's my dad and his sister. And he was an indentured servant. You could tell by his hands there, he was at 10 years old, he had very strong hands from working. So, this monetary revolution that's happening now started a long time ago. I was working for Dr. Ron Paul, who had bills to audit the Federal Reserve. They didn't, you know, we passed it in the House. It was a big fight, but eventually we didn't really get what we wanted, but we fought for an audit of the Federal Reserve, which never really happened. So there's a continuation of that revolution. He ran for president in 2007. I did a majority of his work. 2011, I was director of voter contact, and many of us from the Bitcoin ecosystem actually were staffers of Ron Paul. David Johnson, who's here, somewhere here, and many others. And the reason why is because I think we were ready, because of Ron Paul's speeches, to accept competing currencies. So I think as a continuation of the revolution, we have to respect the past. So at one point, I worked on these campaigns to enlighten people on the perils of what was occurring. And after working on these campaigns, they did not go the way we wanted, because towards the end, even if we were winning in Iowa. And the news came out and said all these things that frankly weren't true, just to be able to bring down the value of the candidate and get a lower score, you know, a lower amount of votes. So I worked on many of those campaigns since 1991. And it dawned on me that, you know, the more we worked on them, but many people learned about those perils. But what happened was we spent a lot of time not winning. So at that point, there was a point in my life when I thought I threw my whole life away on candidates that would never win. And then the same reporters that were talking about against those candidates were talking against Bitcoin, and I got a little angry. I said, what the heck's going on here? Why is it the same people? And so I went and I rented a space right next to the New York Stock Exchange in 2013, 100 feet from the New York Stock Exchange on the first floor, and I opened my own exchange. I was going to open my own exchange and show everybody how wonderful and transparent and peer-to-peer and everything Bitcoin is. I'm going to show Wall Street what that is. So I rented a huge space, 6,000 square feet or 600 meters, but it was on the ground floor, and I opened my own exchange. It's pretty funny because I didn't know what an exchange, I didn't really understand the business at the time. I was baptized by fire. We had many traders there. Don't Vay's one of them. And we had a lot of fun. We taught a lot of people many years. I think we helped usher in this new reality of the understanding of it. So we also opened the blockchain center down in Miami in 2000, I don't remember, a few years ago. That's Mayor Suarez, as he was learning about Bitcoin, did the ribbon cutting. He's a very famous mayor now, and Miami has onboarded many new companies. Dozens and dozens of big companies are going to Miami and are embracing the open doors of Miami, and I believe that we might have had something to do with it. This was 2018. I think, that was at the World Government Summit. I spoke over here, and it was pretty funny. You had one of the questions were, X, Y, and Z from Omaha says Bitcoin's rat poison. What do you think, Mr. Spanos? And I said, well, what does he know about technology? He's not a technologist. I mean, he has many investments, but the majority of his investments, like McDonald's, he can sell McDonald's to fat people like myself here. Coca-Cola to diabetic, and the Rent Center, which is a pretty big holding of his, which is renting furniture to poor people. So that was pretty much my answer. It was a little abrasive, my answer, but that's still my answer. But pretty soon, everyone comes around because it takes a while to understand it. But when you understand Bitcoin, you understand that this is a major leap for humanity. And if you don't understand it and you're just standing around trying to figure out if this is just another investment, yes, it could be just an investment, but I believe that it's a transformational step for humanity, and we have a very small window of opportunity to be able to push this forward. I believe that everyone has to do what they can to push this technology forward, but the proper technology, because if we don't help humanity with the permissionless open blockchain, there are other places around the world that would encumber humanity with the closed permission blockchain. So I think people have to understand and read and learn about this and move us forward. Said his name there. So of course, blockchain is, I call a family tree of data. You can't take your great-grandmother out of your family tree. You can't take a transaction out after a bunch of time goes by, a bunch of blocks go by, because it'll change the rest of the family tree. And since there's a ledger, multiple copies, everyone has a copy of the ledger, you can't really just change one thing because the other people won't let you in. Oh. Whoa. Yeah, we build ATMs. We have a company, Blockchain Technologies Corp, Block Tech. We've got a bunch of companies. Zap. So, this years ago, of course, energy can be measured, offset through the ledger of blockchain. So of course I'm talking about, you've probably heard it many times, that the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 has created the dollar, the fiat dollar. You can see where it's been going. And there's some countries that adopted, went into dollarization, we call, like El Salvador, and now they've also made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. I think they have over 2.5 million people that turned their wallet on to be able to get the free $30 of Bitcoin that the president got for them. And that's an incredible way to push forward adoption. I think Dubai and the UAE can become the new Wall Street. Not become, I think it's becoming. I think I said this a long time ago. What's the date on that? That was 2019. I said UAE can become the next Wall Street, said Nick Spencer. And I believe, not only do I believe, but I predict that many more financial instruments are going to come out of the UAE than Wall Street in the very near future. I predict that. There are decentralized platforms that are become very popular, like Uniswap, and they have 2,000. They had 12 employees at one time, but they had 900 plus pairs, trading pairs. So, you know, like NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange has like a small percentage of that, and hundreds of people trying to keep that in line. But after utilizing blockchain technology, I believe that the UAE will become, and is on its way to become, the new Wall Street. That's what I'm talking about DeFi here. I want to thank the organizers. I want to thank the leadership. I want to communicate to you that there's an inevitable, incredible future coming after we adopt. And it's up to each and every one of us for the generations to come, you know, that we use technology to help humanity and not hinder humanity. So I think the Bitcoinization of El Salvador has brought us this place, is bringing us closer. I think the open ability for people to transact and to build technologies here in the UAE is bringing us closer to that. But it's our obligation, I believe, as individuals to usher in this new future where we are bold, because in the past, it was only a whisper. Bitcoin was a whisper. Blockchain was a whisper. We're afraid of what people were going to think. And people who didn't know anything were making news stories because they didn't understand the technology. So I believe that now it's not a whisper anymore. And as people understand what it is, it's our generational responsibility to protect this technology and the proper use of it. And I think everyone here can do that. My mom passed away past year from COVID, and I remember a story she told me in closing. Not a story she told me, but I got in trouble in school a lot, and we went to a new school, and I was the darkest one in the new school. I got beat up every day by 20 people, 20 kids, 5th grade. And one day the bully was throwing sand at me when I was on the swing, so I jumped off the swing and I beat up the bully. So my mother went to the principal and said, "Oh, my kid every day, he's come home beat up." He said, "Oh, they're just kids." But when I beat up the bully, all of a sudden he wanted to send me to the school for, to learn how to put rubber on tires. And my mother got very angry. She came down to the school and she spoke very sternly to the principal, and the principal changed his whole notion and said, "Okay, everything's fine, I'm gonna make sure you're gonna be okay, Nikki, blah, blah, blah," and he became my friend. And everything was okay after that. And when we walked out of the office, I couldn't believe the words she said. I'm not gonna repeat them, but the words and what she said to the principal. But when we walked out of the office, I was looking up at my mom, and she said, "Don't let anyone take your tharos." So tharos is your boldness, your bravery, your forward motion, your ability to change the world. It's a Greek word. I'm Greek descent. And she said, "Don't let anyone take your tharos in this world. Don't let anyone take your tharos." I said, okay. And they got me. And then later I'd come home from school. She'd say, did anyone try to take your tharos? I said, no, mom, no one tried. She goes, "Did you give your tharos to anyone?" I was like, I don't think so. Then she asked, did you are you forgetting that you have your Thanos? I said, thank you for reminding me that I have my Thanos. I'm not going to forget that, and I believe it's time to use our Thanos to boldly walk forward in this industry without shame. You know, the big companies are adopting this technology, and many people are like, oh, you're vindicated. I go, I don't need to be vindicated. I knew what this technology was and is and what it's going to be. They have to go and say these things just not to be dissolved in obscurity. So I believe that we have to walk bold with our Thanos and move this technology into its inevitable, incredible future, the proper use of the technology, and usher forward an incredible reality for our children. Because, you know, my mom's watching, my dad's watching, all our ancestors from the beginning of time are watching us in this moment for us to be able to understand where we stand and the responsibility we have to the generations after us. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much. Very motivational and inspirational.